Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I am a cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court appointed and private, marriage counseling, dissociative identity disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, and so much more. If you have any need of any assistance, reach out to us at 301 325 1550. Now, today I'm very excited to have at our podcast a very special guest and author, Brent Scarpo, who also casted many of the actors in my favorite movie of all time, The Shawshank Redemption. Now, since he is the best qualified person to be able to introduce himself to all of our 1,000 listeners, I will leave it up to him to be able to take over and provide us some key information about who he is. Brent, the floor is yours, my friend.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. I just love I love the name, the Happiness Journey, because it truly is a journey, and I'm looking forward to our time together. Yes, my name is Brent Scarpo. You can learn more about me on my website, which is brentscarpo.com. I basically, as I shared with you before we got on air, I was born in California, raised in Pennsylvania. My parents divorced when I was 4, so we moved back to Pennsylvania. I've always known that I want to be an actor or in the entertainment industry. So when I graduated from Mercyhurst College in Erie, Pennsylvania, I moved back to California, studied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and started my happiness journey in terms of my career and my passion. And so, I did acting and some modeling, and I was on cruise ships, and I did theater and plays. And then a friend of mine asked me if I was interested in being a casting director, of which I absolutely had no desire. So for your audience, a casting director is actually somebody who hires people to be in the movies, in the TV shows and such. I was an actor. And so I said, my friend, I said, no. I said, just, give me an audition. I'll be good to go. So she called me 2 or 3 different times. And by the 3rd time, she was in tears. So I'll let your listeners in on a secret. If you ever want me to do anything for you, just cry, because I'll do anything you want. And she said, I'm just being very transparent and authentic here, because that's two key components, I think, of a good character. And I said, what's wrong? She said, I haven't worked for a while because, in our industry, you're, consistently unemployed. And I said, well, what's the problem? And she said, well, I got 2 movies, but they won't let me sign a contract unless I have an assistant. I said, well, what are they? She said, one is Ed Wood with Johnny Depp, about the B-movie horror director. And the other one's called Rita Hayworth of The Shawshank Redemption. I said, well, that's the stupidest title I've ever heard my entire life. I said, what's that about? She said, well, it's a Stephen King novella based on a book called Different Seasons. And she's like, I really want to do this because we would be out of town and we make more money. And I said, I don't know. I said, could you just, you find somebody else and then, hire, get me an audition. She said, no, I don't have time. I have to sign the contract tomorrow. So I said, well, what would I do? And, what's the salary? How much am I getting paid? So she told me what I would do. And then she told me how much I was getting paid. My mouth hit the ground. I said, you should have started the conversation with that, not ended with that. I said, are you kidding me? I was working kind of a dead end job. So I took the job, understanding networking, flew to Mansfield, Ohio for 4.5 months. I was the assistant. So my job was to really interview and hire all the guards and all the prisoners, about 3,000 of them. One of the top 10 experiences of my life. I opened up my own casting company thereafter and worked on films like Air Force One, That Thing You Do, in a movie called Matilda, because my niche was athletes and children. I have a big passion for children, and that's why my 2 passions really are the entertainment industry and education. And then shortly thereafter, my happiness journey had a bit of a bump. I lost my mother in 1997 to cancer at the age of 59. I was a primary caregiver. I was on the Today Show. So if you go into the YouTube and you put Brent Scarpo Today Show, you'll see how my mother and I proved that there was life after death. Since then, I've opened up a life coaching business, which I absolutely adore. I'm an intuitive life coach, and I've married together both the entertainment industry and my passion for life coaching. I even created recently the top 10 Shawshank Redemption life coaching lessons that everybody should know. And then I've been working hard since the Today Show in 2010 on a new book called The Red Balloon, Transforming Your Life by one inspirational story at a time. which will come out Mother's Day of 2022.
Wow. Now tell me, The Shawshank Redemption, was that the original title?
No, the original title is called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. It is based on Stephen King's novella, Different Seasons. In fact, you're already familiar with one of the movies from the four. There's 4 short stories and they represent each season.
Okay.
And so Stand By Me, which was, I believe, summer, was the first film that was done. And then Frank went to Stephen King and got the rights. He actually got the rights for $1. And he has the dollar signed by Stephen King in a frame in his office, believe it or not.
Amazing.
Yes, I forgot about that story. And he produced the movie and directed it. And when our biggest issue was just the crazy title. So when I went to public relations, they said, this is just not a title people are going to go and see as far as a movie. So they cut off Rita Hayworth, though she's in it still, or her story is, and they just call it The Shawshank Redemption.
So why did they choose Rita Hayworth as the actor? Because in the movie, I remember Morgan Freeman and the rest of the prisoners were seeing that movie for 100 times when Rita Hayworth turned her head and she looked all beautiful. Why did they choose that actress for that movie?
Right. So that's the Stephen King choice. I'm not sure why his choice was that, but I suspect because we're talking about this is a period piece. So if anybody hasn't seen the movie, I highly recommend it. It's one of the top 10 films you have to see before you die, according to the American Film Institute. But you'll remember, this goes from 1947 to the early 70s. And so Tim Robbins' character, Andy Duphrene, was incarcerated during that time. So, when we're talking about the 50s and the 40s, Rita Hayworth was it. She was the girl. So I suspect it was a period piece choice. And then I won't give anything away, but you remember that, Andy Dufresne wanted a poster of Rita Hayworth in the cell. So there is a significant reason why Rita Hayworth is in the film.
So did you meet Morgan Freeman?
Everybody.
Wow.
I spent 4 months. I partied with them. I hung out with them. Some were a pain in the butt. Most of them were wonderful. Yeah, I would say Morgan Freeman is just phenomenal. One of the nicest people I've ever met my entire life. Frank Darabont was the director and producer. He'd never directed a film his entire life. So the fact that he got the rights to do this after writing it was just phenomenal. A lot of us had been in, this was not our first time, but it was a fledgling, crew. And I'll let you in a little secret. We'll see. We'll test your listeners' knowledge. So
go ahead.
Deborah Aquila was the main casting director. So she got, Morgan Freeman and such, and then we went and did the day players and the background actors. But Tim Robbins is not supposed to be in that film. So the agreement was, Castle Rock Pictures said, "We'll let you direct, but you only get $25 million, and we have to have an A-list actor in order to give you that $25 million to play the part of Andy Dufresne." So Deborah Aquila, working with her, found the A-list actor. It was not Tim Robbins. Okay. So here's the $1 million question, listeners. Who is supposed to play the part of Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption and quit 6 weeks before we were supposed to start principal photography? Because in his 300-page contract, he has the right to change any of the dialogue whatsoever, and wanted certain scenes taken out of the movie, and Frank Darabont said no. And he replied, "Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm going to move on." So who do you think? This is 1994. We needed an A-list actor to play Andy Dufresne. Who did we originally have and quit?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I saw this movie so many times, but I thought that he was was it Harrison Ford?
Oh, that's a great. So the guy, so you could be a casting director. Could have been Harrison. It was not Harrison Ford, but that's a great. I'll give you one more guess before I tell the audience. Audience, you think about it as well.
Wow. Okay. Can you give us a hint about this actor? Did they play in a specific movie?
Okay, 1994, was a #1 paid actor. Been around since he was a teenager. And you will be shocked when I tell you.
I'm sure we will. Oh God, hold on a second. Time is up.
Okay, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Thank God he quit. That's all I can say. I would say to you, the happiness journey is a lovely journey, and so is the creative journey. And so you never know how things are going to create and what are the obstacles, challenges, joys that occur. But he's the one that got the part. He was supposed to play Andy Dufresne, and I would suggest to you that it never would have been the popular film that we're talking about today had he kept that part. And it was all well and good. There were certain scenes he wanted taken out. They said no. He left, and the next person on the list was Tim Robbins, and thank God, because Tim Robbins represents every man.
That's true. Actually, right before you give I thought it was Tom Hanks.
I know. Now that was a good. Now, if you think about that, it's a good answer, because Tom Hanks was in. We got nominated for 7 Oscars, and so he was in Forrest Gump, and we were up against that year.
Okay.
And Forrest Gump, I think, won. So yeah, he couldn't have been, unfortunately.
But do you think that would have been a good choice? Do you think he would have been able to do as good job as the other actor for Andy Dufresne? You think?
Well, here's another bit of information. So Frank Darabont, the director of Shawshank Redemption, was so successful that he got a 4-picture deal, right? And so the second picture, which I wanted to work on, but I couldn't just because there really wasn't a lot of background, was a movie called The Green Mile, and Tom Hanks was the star.
Yeah.
So he did use him. No, I don't think he would. I think because Tim Robbins was known enough, but was not that celebrity star. My acting teacher used to say this: if you really want to know whether or not an actor or actress has done a good job, when you walk out of a movie, listen to what people are saying. Are they saying, oh, that Forrest Gump, I felt so sorry for him when his mama died? Or are they saying, oh, Tom Hanks, he did such a great job? If they talk about the character, then they've done their job. If they talk about the actor, well, that's not who was on the screen.
That is a very good way to look at it. That is very interesting, Brent. So that from this movie, what did you decide? I mean, the experience must have been incredible. And also, you and I, we discussed earlier about that they do some tours in the Ohio prison.
Yeah. So, the film garnered 7 Oscar nominations. And then, and it really wasn't watched before we were nominated. No one watched it. They really didn't. And then it was nominated, and people were like, what is this film? Right. So people started watching it, and then they got completely hooked.
Yes.
And, I will say to you that the original, the location's Mansfield, Ohio, that is an old abandoned prison. It's been there since the late 1800s. They've demolished most of the back of it, but that Victorian main house still sits there. They do tours in Mansfield, Ohio. I think hundreds of thousands of people have been there. They still do shooting. I've been back 2 or 3 times. I know they went back. We celebrated the 25th anniversary 2 years ago, and Frank and the entire cast went and had. I unfortunately could not go. I was sick about not being able to go. But yeah, it's lived on in people's minds and hearts forever. And as I shared with you, I developed 10 life coaching lessons from the film, because when I decided to marry these 2 things together, and a lot of people don't realize the caption of the movie. We have there's a number of posters out there. We got 1 poster, and then the 10th anniversary, we got a second poster, which I put up next to the first one. And I had this up for years, and I never looked at the caption. And every film has some kind of byline or caption. And so the caption for Shawshank, and I think it's so indicative of where we are as a society today in the last 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
It is: fear can hold you prisoner, hope can set you free. That is the subtitle of the Shawshank Redemption. Fear can hold you prisoner, hope can set you free. You're a therapist. We got to face our fears and create the necessary action steps to overcome them. We got to embrace the hope of getting out of that prison, whether it's a prison of our mind or a prison of our own making. And as Andy Dufresne did, take that little small hammer and just chip away and allow time to be able to be your victor.
Wow. So the 10 lessons, if you could just go through them like briefly.
Yeah, of course. So number 1, it's the most famous line. I was there when he said it. Red and Andy Duphrene, it's near the end of the film, and Red's developed this great relationship, and he's concerned about his friend. And you're not sure what's going to go on because he's been there so long. A lot of you listeners, whether it's COVID or lost your job or the loss of a child, it just seems like it's forever. And Andy Dufresne looks at Red and says, well, I guess it comes down to two choices. I can either get busy living or get busy dying.
Yes.
Right. That's what I said to my life coaching clients when COVID started. I said, well, you can lament all you want, right? Or you can get busy living or get busy dying. So we've got to take these action steps to move us forward. Without action, you stay still and you stay stagnant. 2 is fear can hold you prisoner, hope can set you free. My third one, especially now, is you have to be relentless and tenacious. I love the film. It took Andy 20 years to escape Shawshank Redemption with the tiny rock camper. Remember, he wanted to get books. He wanted to develop a library. And the warden said, you'll never get any money. He wrote 1 letter a week for years before they got so sick of it, they sent him the money. We have to break down our own personal negative walls that we build around ourselves. The fourth one I love is the greatest strength you'll ever have is inside of you. No matter where you are, who you are, what people say about you, you have to stay true to your own core values, right? And this is what Andy Dufresne did. My favorite scene, it's one of my favorite, and I was there for this one. I tried to get on the set as much as I could, is when they're on top of the roof. And let me tell you, that was a hot day. We were there for, 12 hours. And they've got that tar. And Nanny goes up to Clancy Brown, who played that horrible guard, and said, look, I can help you not pay taxes on your wife's inheritance. And he's about to throw him off the roof, and he finally convinces them, no, I'm an accountant. I can do this, right? And he has this strength. His strength is, these are my assets. These are my tools, which marries itself to number 5, is that your second greatest strength is your tools, skills, and accomplishments. So he knew he was an accountant. He could help out the Clancy Brown's character, but he also said, all I ask is a few beers from my colleagues, and there's that great scene at the end where we had to wait for the sun to go down. Andy's at the opposite of the roof. The other guys are on the other end. The one guy said, would you like a beer? And then he said, I quit a long time ago, right? And so, he didn't need that validation because that strength was already inside of him. 6, this is the reason why the relationship between Red and Andy Dufresne exists, Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. Good friends and relationships support you both during good times and bad times. I always say the people you surround yourself is who you will become. I used to work in a prison for 2 years as a life coach, and I asked them how many of them want to be millionaires, and they all kind of joked and laughed. I said, I'll teach you how to be a millionaire right now. And I said, all you have to do is hang out with millionaires, and you will eventually become one, right? We call it the chameleon effect. Number 7 is share the value of you to others. So if you want to be a better version of yourself, you've got to share the most valuable parts of who you are with other people. I think that's got a little bit lost in the last 5 to 10 years in a very narcissistic society. Again, this is where Andy was bold enough to ask for beers for his colleagues tarring the roof, right?
Yes.
He knew the value of what he could do and what he could share. 8 is opportunities can be seen everywhere. You just have to look and listen, right? Again, Andy didn't have to say anything to the one guard. And then that turned into, he was preparing taxes for all the guards and all the and their wives, and was able to open up a little tax shop around tax season. Number 9, practice random acts of kindness. That which you give comes back to you 10, 100, 1,000 times fold. Andy has an opportunity, for those of you who didn't see the film, so I don't want to give away, but he has an opportunity to share his journey of happiness to his friend Red. And he does it in a very unique way, invite him to the paradise of Zewataneo, right? He didn't have to, but he chose to. And last, in life, you must take risks, right? These ties into facing your fears are, as most fears are rooted in not wanting to take the actions necessary. Playing it safe and living a lonely, tired, and uninspired life will not get you to the dreams and goals and happiness that you want.
Beautiful. One question, where was the island at the end of the movie?
So that has a sore part for me. So 487 crew members, right? And they're like, is the last shot, everyone's going to the Virgin Islands, right? The Virgin Islands. I'm done. And there's 2 people, there's like maybe 3 or 4 people that weren't asked to go. I was one of them.
Okay.
Because there was no background extras. I was so mad it wasn't even funny. And then when I saw the film, I'm like, okay, that could have been done at the Santa Monica Beach. Like
Yes.
you went to the Virgin. Are you kidding me? But that was just a way to thank everybody. Unfortunately, no, I was not happy about that. But yep, they went to the Virgin Islands.
So the driving part, was that the Big Sur? The driving part that he was driving the convertible to go to
No, that's all a mountain or a hill somewhere in the Virgin Islands. They flew everybody there.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they were there for like a week, enjoy themselves. I was back in Mansfield, Ohio, just bumming out, crying. I'm like, I can't go to, I can't believe this. Oh no, everybody. I mean, the scene's maybe 60 seconds, 2 minutes.
Yes,
3 minutes.
at best, yeah.
Yeah, that was a week and 400 people being flown to the Virgin Islands.
So how did they find the bus? This was the period of 1947, 1948. The buses that he took, that Red took to the border, and
so every movie's got various departments. Okay. It really takes a small army to make this all happen. You look at 400 to 500 different people they hire on the crew, and so locations is one. They're the ones that find all the locations, and then you have your prop masters and your vehicle people. And I'll give you to answer your question, I'll give you an example of what you have to do. So my favorite scene in the entire movie really is working with the background when Andy Duphrene locks the guard in the bathroom, and he decides to play that Italian aria.
Yes.
And it was on a 78. For those of you that are millennials, look it up. 78 record, right? And I just remember getting I don't know, they called me, said, Brent, are you doing anything? It's like, no. He goes, we need you to drive to Columbus, Ohio, which is like 2.5 hours away, because there's this old vintage record shop that has the 78 vintage Italian aria that we're playing during page something scene, whatever. Mm-hmm. Can you go get it? And I was like, yeah, I can go get it. So, we research everywhere. We had to go in Ohio to find all the vehicles and the phonographs and all this stuff, so it has that consistent look of the time period. And it's my favorite scene because, it really is the extras that are featured, and they hear that phenomenal aria. And, for as Morgan Freeman's wonderful voice that comes over in that rich baritone says,
voice.
yeah. For a brief moment in time, everybody in Shawshank was free when they heard that woman's voice.
Yes.
So yeah, it was great because it really did feature them. The aria is called, I'm probably not going to say this correctly, but it's called Le Nozze de Figaro.
Okay. Do you have can you play it if you have it on YouTube?
Let me see if I
that will so people will know what to look for, because
let me see. Hold on, let me see if you can hear it on my YouTube. Let me see if I can get to that. We can make all these things happen. It was an amazing scene. Let's see here, because it really featured the guys.
It feel like, because they're all looking up to at the speed.
Oh, just so yeah, it really is. Okay, you want me to just play it so you can hear it, right?
Yes. So at least, because this is going to be an audio recording, so people will just hear.
Oh, yeah. Let me know if you can hear it.
Yeah.
You booked a cozy Virgo mountain cabin.
Hold on.
That's the wrong one. Very faint.
Andy, let me out. Andy?
Oh, yeah.
Andy?
I have no idea to this day what those 2 Italian ladies were singing about. Truth is, I don't want to know. Some things are best left unsaid. I like to think they were singing about something so beautiful it can't be expressed in words. and makes your heart ache because of it. I tell you, those voices soared higher and farther than anybody in a great place dares to dream. It was like some beautiful bird flapped into our drab little cage and made those walls dissolve away. And for the briefest of moments, every last man at Shawshank felt free.
Wow, that is brings back memory, Brent. I love it, love it. Now, one question about the casting, the warden, the bad cops, all the the young kid that that passed the English test. How did you find all those people?
So that's an interesting question.
Librarian, especially the librarian.
Yeah, no. It's a great question. So, so the casting, Deborah Quilla was the main casting director. So she got a lot of the people that you spoke about. When we went into Mansfield, we only got $25 million. That's not a lot of money to make that kind of film. I mean, this film today probably costs $100 million to do. And so anybody that had 5 lines or less, right? They were all local people in Ohio because we couldn't afford to bring them out. Okay. Or if they had no lines. So that was my job along with my supervisor. Deborah Quilla, it's a process. And so what they do is we send out notices to all the agencies, both in New York and in LA. We give a description of the parts that we're looking for. They send us pictures. We look at the pictures. Then we look at, their credits. They come in for auditions. They're picked. And then we got a cast. I know Morgan Freeman's, Tom Cruise was picked first. No, I think Morgan Freeman was picked first and then Tom Cruise. Then Tom Cruise quit and then they had Tim Robbins. Then the rest of the cast kind of came in as far as the other prisoners and such. It's funny. Here's another bit. So the kid who passed the English test, he was in my graduating class at my acting school. His name is Gil Bellows. Yeah.
Wow.
What was crazy about that is that he's not supposed to be in that film. That was like halfway through, and we found out that the actor that was supposed to play that part, the agent called and said, listen, is there any way we can get out of this? He has a feature film where he's the star. We would love it. And for some odd reason, Frank Darabont said yes. And so the next person on the list was Gil Bellows. And so I found out he was coming. And we had another friend that his wife was the associate producer. All 3 of us went to we were in the same acting class. And so it was kind of a good deal. But what was interesting is the gentleman that quit and that was supposed to play that part, I forgot about this until you said that, was Brad Pitt.
You got to be kidding me.
Brad Pitt's agent called and said, is there any way he can get out of this? He's got a feature film where he start. Yeah. And so they allowed him, and Gil Bellows got it, and it changed his career.
Wow. So what movie was he casted after Shawshank?
I think it was, you're talking about Brad Pitt?
Gil Bellows.
Oh, Gil Bellows. He was in, he was known as the recurring role in Ally McBeal.
Oh, you know what? Now that you're saying this, looks very familiar. I remember.
Yeah, he was on Ally McBeal for a very long time. He played an attorney, and I don't know how well his career was going at the time. He's from Canada. Okay. But it literally, that's life. It just takes so many different twists and turns. But I know it was shortly there because he played Tommy, and then he played Billy in Ally McBeal.
Billy, okay, yeah, I'm gonna definitely look for one of the, I would say, episode. And when it comes to the others, were they all IMDb actors that were known, or they were like those who had 5 lines and over, or they were just kind of like starters?
I would say a combination of the two. Okay. It's interesting, especially when you get into character actors. There's a lot of actors that were in that film that have great resumes. Shawshank helped them out a great deal. Don't get me wrong, by any stretch of imagination, it really did. But a lot of them, they had credits, and they had, I mean, Gil, I think Shawshank Redemption was the fifth acting part he ever had in his entire life, and then, it just everything changed for him. But I think the most of them, they had pretty good credits. I don't think any of them were beginners, but they weren't, celebrities or stars, say like Morgan Freeman or Tim Robbins, but they were character actors that have worked consistently.
I know one of the actors that actually played in many movies. He was one of the prisoners. He was saying, like, remember the guy who was reading the book? The author was named Dumas or Dumas. Remember that prisoner when they were like opening all the books in the library, and he said he was Frank Dumas. And then
he
well known.
He is William Sadler. William Sadler's been in a lot of stuff. He's been in a lot of stuff. Yeah. And even Clancy Brown, who played the really hard-nosed, horrible guard, he's been in a lot of stuff as well. I mean, Bob Gutton, he was in Star Trek: The New Generation. I remembered him playing a part in that. James Whitmore, oh my gosh, he's been around for years and years and years. He's the elderly prisoner that hung himself.
Yeah, librarian.
I mean, he's been around he's since passed, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think he did one of the Bruce Willis movie, the second one.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. William.
He goes back to old westerns in the 1940s and the 1950s. I mean, oh no, he's huge.
That is really, so that's why I thought that the Shawshank was like the movie that catapulted a lot of actors in that.
Yes.
But
yeah, when you're in a movie and it gets nominated for an Oscar, people start to pay attention.
Wow. Okay. And there were a lot of extras, huh? When you look at the
3,000.
Holy cow! And mostly locals, right?
All locals.
Okay. And usually
every one of them. Yeah, we just didn't have the money.
Okay, so what is the pay for extras usually when they take the local one?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So, none of them were union, so that was a different situation, but we needed them consistently. So I think back then, I'm trying to remember exactly. That's a great question. I think we pay them pretty well, actually, more so than we do New York and LA. I want to say anywhere between $100 to $200 a day, just depending on what they did. Okay. And they loved it. I mean, they had an 11% unemployment rate there. That's one of the reasons why we went. They had the abandoned prison. There was a lot of particulars. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, that town, we pumped about $25 million into that town, and I've been there since Shawshank, and it transformed. I mean, it went from a town that was dying to, at least during the times I was back, was doing very well. I mean, one great story, I remember we had 3,000 extras. So, it's a period piece. So they have 1945 haircuts.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And we could go on for hours, but I went into biker bars. I went into gangs. I looked for, because we needed notorious looking guys. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I remember it was a scary moment because we had about 3,000 that came to our orientation. We took pictures, all that. And then, I mean, these guys had long hair, beards, the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, hair and makeup came to us and said, okay, here are the pictures of what they need to look like. And then we realized, oh my God, we're going to lose them all. We're going to lose all of them because, I mean, I had one guy that had hair down to his butt. And we called them all back and we sat them down. I said, look, this is going to be an amazing experience. You're going to get paid. You're going to be in the movie. This is also what we call a period piece. And I could just see the confusion on their faces. What that means is that every Friday for 4 months, we're going to give you a voucher. We made the barbers in Mansfield, Ohio, made an insane amount of money.
I can imagine.
We charged, they agreed to $2 a haircut, but every Friday, all 3,000 had to get a haircut from a 1945 look. Every Friday to keep the consistency. Okay. And I thought they were all just going to leave. I thought for sure. And we lost a handful, but most everybody stayed. And when we had the first day of principal photography, when they showed up, I couldn't even recognize who they were because I'm still friends with a lot of them on Facebook. Because I had a woman. I had an answer machine back in the day. This is 1994, 93. And I get back to my office and the phone would ring. And is this Brent Scarpo? Yes, ma'am. My name is Elma Jean Wood. Okay. You have my husband, Jonathan. Listen, you can keep him on that film as long as you like. We've never seen him look so good. He's been mannerly. He's been nice. He smells good. Whatever you're doing, just keep on doing it. I bet I got couple dozen of those phone calls from girlfriends and grandmas and mothers and wives. Oh yeah,
That is amazing. I've noticed one thing about this movie is beside the wife of Andy Dufresne, who had the affair with the other guy, there was
the golfer.
The golfer. There was not one woman in that movie.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. Okay, my happiness journey just went to the sadness journey. So you're absolutely correct. I had thousands of people audition, and the original script, right, had a few more women than what we have. Yeah, it's primarily men.
Yes.
There's the secretary of the warden. There is the one woman on the probation board, and then there's the ex-wife of Andy Duphrene. There was a scene. In fact, I cast the whole thing. I was so excited. And it's a baseball game between the guards and the prisoners. And all the wives of the guards and all the wives of the prisoners show up in this field. We had the field, we had the 1950s baseball mitts, and they cut it because we ran out of money.
Oh, that is interesting. So was that the purpose of bringing more females into the movie?
I think just adding more female. I think also bringing together. There's a running theme that you probably will be aware of that I share with you. Well, here, I'll say this to you.
Go ahead.
So when I went to research the guards and the prisoners and such, I went to the old prison, which we've shot at, but I also went to the new prison, which was gorgeous. It was like a college campus. So we had a liaison that was with me all the time if I had to ask any questions. And I remember going to the prison, and she was tiny. She was like 5'1", and we were on these paths, and then all of a sudden the bell rings, and the prisoners who could leave their pods and go to their classes and stuff. And like, I'm in the middle of this maximum security prison with this tiny little girl who was our liaison, and all these prisoners like walking freely, and I'm like, they could just jump both she and I, and we wouldn't. And I said, are you ever like a little frightened? She's like, no, we've got protocols, I said, okay. And I said, can I talk to some of them that are walking past me? She said, yeah, just ask their permission first. So I saw this one guy. I said, excuse me, I'm with the film. Oh yeah, I've heard about you. I said, can I ask you a few questions? So we had a couple other people on the Shawshank team, and she kept listening to me and the guy while she was trying to talk to the people in front of me. So I just slowed down my pace. I knew the guy wasn't going to talk to me freely. She was really talking to, I think, our associate or our second AD. And so I said to the guy, I said, listen, how long have you been here? He told me. I said, what's the one thing you can share with me that, she doesn't want me to know, or that would help me in casting this film? Because my role is to hire the guards and the prisoners. And then he stopped, and he took his foot and he put a line in the sand, in the dirt in front of me. Wow. He said, this is what you need to know. The line between the guards and the prisoners is a very thin one.
Wow. Very, very interesting.
So, that baseball scene was to bring together that thin line. Is there really a difference between the guards and the prisoners, right? I will share with you that, a lot of people don't know that a lot of the extras that I put into the film are actually on probation and were in that prison. And so just for jokes, I would say to them, do you want to be a prisoner? Do you want to be a guard? And it's like, oh, I'd love to be a guard, right? And so there's a lot of prisoners from that old prison that were on probation, and I made them guards for the first times in their lives.
That is just spectacular. Wow. Man, I can go on and make us speaking about Shawshank for the next 6 hours. I have so many other questions. I mean, just the intricacies of the movie itself, because as you know, that was one of the longest movies I've ever watched.
Yeah, 2.5 hours.
And but yet I was so enthralled by the story on how everything had, also the fact that he was falsely accused for killing his wife and the golfer. that again is what we're seeing now. Even with DNA testing in jails and prisons and all that, a lot of people have been falsely accused and put in jail while other who are criminals are on the streets. So that gives us an idea of how society has not really changed much in terms of the judicial system and how people are still experiencing what Andy Dufresne's been experiencing for 20 years.
Well, look at what COVID did. COVID put us into our own prison, right? And I think we're all experiencing feelings and emotions of what it means to be in prison, what it means to be victimized. None of us volunteered to participate in this social experiment called COVID, right? I had a colleague, a friend of mine, call me halfway through COVID. He said, "You're a life coach." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I need some help." I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I've been married to my wife for 17 years. I said, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "I just met her for the first time 6 months ago." I said, "What?" He said, "I have no idea who this woman is that I'm living with." Right? Because for the first time, and what prison does, whether it's a psychological one, emotional one, or physical one like Shawshank, is it keeps us from running. COVID stopped all of us from running. We were quarantined in our home with the person we call our husband, our wife, our boyfriend, our girlfriend, our partner, our kids. And I would say for the very first time in a very long time, right, we had to see exactly who we were and who we are with. Because most people run when the bell rings for school, or they go up to the bar, or they go to work, and then they come back and they don't have conversations. They say "I love you," but they don't really mean it, or they don't understand the meaning behind the words, right? So until you're in a real physical prison like Andy Dufresne was, and your freedom is actually taken away, you come to really realize the core values of who you are and those that you surround yourself with. And that's why I think that film shares so much similarity to the kind of prison we've been in our own mind and our own physicalness when it comes to COVID in the last 2 to 3 years.
Wow. So can we really assume that what Red said when the librarian committed suicide, that he was institutionalized?
It is like, I could cry now because I was there for that scene as well, because I love James Whitmore. And when and I knew it wasn't real, and I saw the prop master and I knew the guy, but it just the pain of that, right? Because that's where you succumb to the prison of your mind. That's where you, right, allow fear to interfere with the hope, right? James Whitmore's character is institutionalized, and he tries. God knows he tries. For every scene James Whitmore was on, because I'm such a fan, I went to. When he's in that grocery store and he can't bag the groceries because of the arthritis, and so he loses hope of what it means to be a human being in the outside world, because all of his life has been represented by being inside. In prison, he was somebody. I think you and I spoke about that. Andy Dufresne's character says, on the outside, I was an upstanding citizen. Yes. I actually had to break the law once I got into prison.
That is a line that made me laugh, because the reality is that it's the complete opposite. People on the outside are criminals, and when they get into the inside of the institution, they become real, like I would say, nicer people. But then it was the complete opposite. He was honest, as I don't know what the expression he used, as honest as what, I don't know what he said, Andy Dufresne. Anyway, but you get the idea, and everyone,
yeah, of course,
this movie is going to understand what Shawshank Redemption is all about. Well, Brent, that's all the time we have for today's podcast. I really do appreciate the time you took out of your very busy schedule as a life coach and as a
let me finalize. Let me share a gift. I'm having an aha moment. So I'm a life coach. I do intuitive readings. I have a 4-month program. Here's what I like to do, because you've been so wonderful for any audience members, and as long as I'm alive and well. So let's do this. I will do a complimentary strategic intuitive reading for any of your listeners. All they have to do is text the word happiness to my cell phone. Text it, please, at 760-835-3327. Again, just text the word happiness to 760-835-3327. I will get back to you. And what I like to offer all your listeners is a complimentary intuitive reading that will strategically help them with whatever particular challenges they're facing.
Beautiful. Well, all listeners, Please take advantage of his complimentary gift. And we all hope that you have actually enjoyed today's episode, because I did. As you all know, Shawshank Redemption is my all-time favorite movie. I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories just like the one you heard today. Now, here are a few concluding words of wisdoms. Today, be the person of your dreams. See life through their eyes. Make decision with their mind. Let every thought, word, and action come from their perspective, as if you have already arrived, and just watch how the year 2022 warps into the kind of year you want to talk and laugh about forever and ever and ever. Peace, love, and lots of love and happiness. My name is Dr. Dan Amzalag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life. Thank you all for listening.